All right, it looks like we are live. So, welcome everyone who is jumping on. I'd like to welcome the president of the SOA, also global chief actuary of MetLife, Mr. Andrew Rallis. So, thank you for joining, Andrew.
Hey, Paul, thank you. And only my family calls me Andrew, so you can call me Andy.
Andy, okay. I saw in your emails Andy. I wasn't sure, so all right, I'll start calling you Andy now.
Yes,
So thanks
thank
for
you.
joining, Andy. Um, so,
Excellent.
so just to kind of start off, maybe you could give a little introduction about yourself, and then we'll kind of jump on in.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, people wonder just what it means to be a SOA president. I'm in the role now for 8 months about. I've got 4 more months in the role. So it seems like it's a short time, but really it's a 3 year commitment because the year before you serve as president elect, the year after you serve as past president. Those each have their kind of own responsibilities. And I'm on the board that entire 3 year time. I was on the board before this, so this is actually now my second term on the board because of this role. So altogether, I've been on the board for about 5 years now.
Okay.
So I've been involved with SOA for quite some time.
Yes.
Uh, and in my career, I mean, I completed my 35th anniversary at MetLife last November.
Oh wow, you've been there a
So
while.
I've been there a while.
Yeah.
It's pretty much my whole life at MetLife. My whole professional career at MetLife. I did work briefly before that somewhere else, but that was just a brief time and a long time ago. And I grew up in New York. I grew up in Queens, New York. Went to high school here in the city and in Stuyvesant High School in Manhattan, and went on to MIT. And I studied a lot of physics and a lot of mathematics at MIT before graduating, and then pursuing actuarial stuff.
So that's what I was curious about. I saw that you had gone to MIT, studied math and physics. In fact, I think I read somewhere that you helped in discovering a black hole. Is that
Oh,
correct?
that's in my rap video. So yeah, so that's
Okay.
that's
Yes.
that's actually true. So uh, in studying physics, I got involved in doing work as an undergraduate, part of a physics lab, astrophysics lab. Uh, that we had to do a undergraduate physics thesis. So everybody had to do a thesis. So it was almost a requirement that you get involved with some projects, some real physics work.
Yeah.
And so this was what I was involved in for almost a couple of years. And we worked with data from one of the state of the art at the time X-ray satellites. So this is a satellite that was imaging, collecting from the sky images in X-rays. So rather than seeing stars, we were seeing X-ray sources, things that were emitting X-rays.
Wow.
So we got on a project that was looking at a nearby galaxy and saw that it was emitting X-rays, and we studied all of the possible outcomes of where they were coming from, and we determined it was probably a black hole. So that was the basis for my undergraduate thesis, and then we wound up with my thesis advisor getting that published in the Astrophysical Journal.
Wow. Okay. That's
So it
amazing.
was hardcore science.
So the tools that you were using to discover that black hole, like have those changed quite a bit from when you discovered it to today, or is it still pretty similar? What
Well,
they?
look, the tools. Oh my God! I mean, the the mathematics is the same. Okay,
Yeah.
so you needed all of the same kind of statistics, matrix, linear
Yep.
algebra,
Yep.
all of that kind of stuff. But the way it was implemented was completely different. Now you take it for granted. I know you work with Excel, you have on your toolbar, you can do all kinds of nifty statistical analysis
Yep.
just from there.
Yep.
Well, it didn't exist back then.
Right.
Okay, we were just one step. I was 1 year past needing to use the card readers to write computer programs. Back
Wow.
in the day,
Yeah, that's amazing.
we used Fortran, but it
Yeah.
was all punch cards.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you made a mistake in a punch card, you had to retype the punch card, you had to go with your deck and resubmit it. And these were being run on mainframes. So you had to chew up mainframe time running decks of punch cards. I mean,
I've
it was
had,
really crazy.
that is crazy. People have told me about that, and it's amazing how much things have changed since then. Like, and what for you? I mean, you were studying black holes, you were studying physics. How did you even transition into actuarial from there?
Well, I had found out about the profession when I was in high school, so I knew the concept of actuaries. Uh, I knew it was heavy math, at
Mm-hmm.
least getting into it. Um, and I loved both science and I loved math.
Yeah.
So I got my taste of science with all of the physics work I was doing and the lab work and the projects and so forth, which I really loved. But I was confronted with really, if I wanted to continue on in physics, the only real way to have a career in physics was to, pretty much go and get a PhD,
Right.
which was a big commitment. I'm going to say another 3-4 years of schooling, and I was looking at that, and certainly, although I love physics, what I realized was, as you're studying science, you're becoming more and more expert in subjects that are narrower and narrower and narrower in focus.
Mm-hmm.
So that you become eventually, you get your PhD, you become the world leading, expert on something, but like you're the only person in the world that knows what you're talking about.
Right.
So that was an aspect where I kind of realized that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, and that working as an actuary, I'd have a lot more interaction, with normal day to day life and working with people.
Yes, for
So,
sure.
and that's not something we're widely known for, working with people,
We're
but
not. Although I think
compared to
more,
being an astrophysicist, it's
even
true.
even more so. I
Yeah.
I feel like that stereotype, it definitely has been around, but I feel like more and more actuaries are kind of having to have those public speaking skills and things of that
Oh yeah.
nature. So maybe it's changing. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, look, the more successful you are, the more you can learn new skills or adapt what you know to new situations. And I
Hmm.
think I do think it's imperative for actuaries to kind of develop these skills.
Yeah, for sure. And when you went into actuarial, did you start off in life insurance? I mean, you said you've been at MetLife for 35 years.
I
Or
started off in workers' compensation.
oh, you
I
did?
worked
Okay.
for the National Council on Compensation Insurance, which was a workers' compensation rate making organization. And I worked there for 2 years before joining MetLife's actuarial student program.
Oh, wow.
The NCCI was great. They worked out of offices in downtown, in Midtown Manhattan, and I loved it. But they relocated from Manhattan to Florida at the time, and it was all my family was here in New York. I wasn't really, didn't really want to make that jump.
Yep.
So I looked around and settled on MetLife's actuarial student program, which was top notch, and joined MetLife.
That's nice. So I'm sure you got the study hours back then and all that kind of stuff for the exams at the company.
yeah, there were, yeah, it was the typical, study hours. I mean, it was, and still is, world-class actuarial development
Yeah,
program.
that's awesome. And then kind of fast forwarding, obviously now you're the chief actuary at MetLife. I wanted to ask you, like, kind of comparing being an actuarial analyst, really digging into the projects yourself, now leading so many people at an executive level. How different is that, and do you enjoy that aspect, or do you kind of miss being in the weeds a little bit?
Oh, well, it's both. Okay,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
completely different, but I completely enjoy both aspects. So being down in the weeds, for a decade, I was working on hedging our variable annuity programs. Okay, the variable annuities, very complex topic,
Hmm.
lots of simulation, derivatives, Black-Scholes formula, all of that, very highly technical.
So you actually got to
Highly,
apply a little bit of the IFM exam there.
uh, well, before it was IFM and before there
MFE.
were derivatives on it. So, old Part 8 exam.
Okay, there you go.
Uh, and I really love that kind of work. I mean, the more technical, the better for me. Okay,
Hmm.
the more, um, but leading people is very different. I always say the one thing more complicated than all of the actuarial formulas we deal with is people,
Hmm.
because you don't know how people are going to react. You don't know, what's in their heads, and leading and inspiring people is actually as big or greater a challenge.
I believe that for sure. So then, I mean, you worked into that role in MetLife, and then obviously now you're president of the SOA. What was kind of the transition, or what inspired you to start working with the SOA in that way?
Well, in MetLife, I've got a global role, and my role spans. We've got actuaries in over 40 countries,
That's amazing. I
and
saw you have like 1,200 actuaries, or is that
yeah,
about right?
something. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, that's the actuaries at MetLife that I'm responsible for in a sort of solid line reporting. It's 700 or 800,
Hmm.
but in matrix and accountability reportings, it's all 1,200.
Wow.
Uh, and I've learned a lot through that experience. And SOA is also a global organization, and I really felt that my experiences at MetLife could really help the SOA sort of solidify its
Hmm.
approach towards being a global organization. And the SOA has more than 30,000 members. Really, about two-thirds of them are in North America, US and Canada, and about a third are outside.
Okay.
So I might have those numbers off a little bit, but you get the picture. I
Yep.
mean,
Yep.
you really need a different kind of perspective when you've got to accommodate the needs of people in Hong Kong, in China, in the Middle East, in Africa, in all over the world. So I really felt that I could bring my perspective and make a difference for the SOA. And I felt it was also important to do this while my experience was more relevant, rather
Yes.
than wait until I retired,
That makes sense.
even though it's a lot of extra work and I've really doubled up on my time commitments.
Yeah.
But my experience is very relevant in both jobs, and one kind of enhances the other at this point.
I would believe that. So has it been a challenge, obviously, with 2020 having the pandemic and everything? Have you pretty much, both in your role at MetLife and in the SOA, have you mostly been remote, or have you been able to still travel various places?
No, we've been remote in both roles since March.
Okay.
So prior to March, I had been traveling quite a bit, but that got shut down in March, and I've kind of been home since.
Okay, wow. Do you find that difficult, or has it been pretty easy just transitioning to doing Zoom calls and various things of that nature?
The Zoom calls are challenging. I mean, they're good. It's great, but my feelings are require a lot of understanding.
Hmm.
You lose something by not being in the room with people, and certainly the social aspects of
Yes.
just being with people are less. But thank God we have Zoom, because I
Hmm.
can't even begin to imagine what this would have been like. A lockdown would be like if we did not have these
Yeah,
technologies. So
I was thinking the
so I
same
am
thing.
thankful for what we have.
Yeah.
It's it's great. And
Yeah.
it's not just Zoom; it's any of the platforms, Microsoft Teams, and
Yeah.
uh,
Definitely. I'm I'm
all of those.
I'm working for a small health consulting company, Edrington Health Consulting. Shout out to them. I think they're watching now. I'm doing a part-time gig this summer with them. And, it's a very small company, so we've been in the office, but that's the advantage of having a really tiny team. And it just, in Arizona, they kind of reopen things again. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens if there's any spikes or anything like that. Because a lot of
Be
people,
careful out there.
yeah.
I mean, the virus is still there.
Yep, yep. Because like in Arizona, yeah, a lot of the restaurants are open, various things of that nature, and I have seen that our numbers are going up. Um, so yeah, it's gonna, and even this grad program I'm in, they're starting early. They're starting early August, I think, to try to mitigate, um, when the second spike would happen. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so I also kind of on the whole world issue. Obviously, we've had civil unrest in the U.S. and worldwide, and kind of your perspective as like a global leader. Do you feel like as actuaries, um, what kind of role can we play as actuaries during this time to help out?
Well, it's I think there's a lot we can do. I'll be actually talking about this more next week. Working on a presentation for the Society of Actuaries where we're going to address specific things we can deal with. The impacts of racism in America,
Hmm.
especially. Um, but as actuaries, I think I mean, we sort of have to deal with our own membership, our own ranks.
Hmm. Right.
But when you think about what we bring to the world, regardless of our own, we each have our own experiences. So we're bringing that. It's the same mathematics,
Hmm.
but we're bringing our life experiences to our clients. So certainly encouraging having diverse viewpoints within the profession is extremely important. But there's one aspect that I really uh, worry about that's almost like unique to actuaries. And that's the models that we build and the analytic models that we build of the world. We're pivoting towards models that depend on a lot of big data, quote unquote, big data.
Right.
And what I'm worried about is the biases that we may see in the real world
Hmm.
in all of our interactions, our healthcare and our economy and our education. That whatever biases exist today, we run the risk of embedding those
Yes.
into our algorithms and the way our analytics work. And I think that's an area where actuaries can have a unique role in trying to eliminate the impact of biases from being perpetuated indefinitely.
Hmm.
So that's something that's very exciting because we know mathematics is mathematics.
Right.
Um, but if you feed data in that sort of is encapsulating things that are not right, you're going
Hmm.
to get outcomes
that aren't
that
right.
also are not right.
Yes.
So, that's something where I feel actuaries might be able to play a unique role,
Yes.
and safeguarding society against biases in the future.
Definitely. Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, that's kind of what I always liked about math and science is like the numbers are numbers, and humans are humans. And it's like with humans there's so much up and down and everything, but like being able to look at data and have answers in data, I always appreciated that side of things. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so
Look, the data, finding those biases is its own challenge. I
mhm.
mean, it's not easy. You look at data, even something like the pandemic, it's the impact on comorbidities, so diabetes, high blood pressure, and so forth. When you dig deeper into it, you do run the risk of capturing something that would, lead to outcomes that are, based on race,
Yes,
and
right.
that's not what we want.
Exactly.
We want to understand what the real, underlying drivers are, separate from all of these biases.
Mhm. Totally. So I also kind of transitioning on the SOA topic. Since you're president of the SOA, I did see an announcement the other day that all the exams are now going to be CBT, computer-based exams,
Yeah.
and I think that's a very positive thing. And I'm just kind of curious for people who are watching, since it's a lot of actuaries that watch this channel. I saw that it will be kind of more Excel and Word based. This is for FSA exams as well as the written ASA parts like the LTAM and things of that nature?
I think it is. I don't have the details on each and every exam,
Okay.
but I know our intent is by the fall to have all of our exams available computer based.
Okay. That'll be interesting. So that will probably, I mean, I know there's many graders of like the written portions of the exam. Would that work in the same way where there would be like multiple graders that would look at those just on a computer?
I don't look. I don't know
Not sure.
I don't
Okay.
know the specifics.
That's all right.
But look, we've been experimenting for a while with computer based, and one of the the things that I think I've been proud that the organization has done is our approach to predictive analytics, where we have created an assessment where we're providing a set of data, we're providing the tools needed to analyze the data,
Uh-huh.
so which would include something like Excel or R or Python. I
Yep.
forget which one we're providing, and a word processing software so you can actually write a report.
Yep.
So here's the data, write the report based on that data, and you're doing the analytics in between. I think that's a very powerful way to assess candidates. It's
Yeah.
not memorization. You do need to know how to use the tools to get the answer. It's not just enough to say, okay, I can write a Python script. You need to be able to, write the script. You need to be able to actually, crunch the data. I think that's a great way to assess the skills.
Yeah, I mean, it seems more real life even than, pen and paper. It's, what we're doing on a daily basis as
Right,
actuaries. So,
right,
yeah.
right.
Um, I also saw on YouTube that you had a little bit of a rap going, a little bit of a rap game going. I was impressed. I was like, wow, the president of the SOA. So, those who haven't seen it, this guy is a rapper. Um, I don't think I've ever seen an actuarial rap before, so I just thought I'd give you a quick shout out for that.
Well, that was very interesting. We, when you step into the role of president, it happens at the annual meeting. So this annual meeting, the last annual meeting, was in Toronto, and I was teasing along with my board members. I said, "Look, all of these presidential speeches are a little stodgy. I said, I want to do something different. So I'm going to wrap my speech like it was the Broadway show Hamilton.
Nice. I
And I
like
said,
it.
oh, yeah. And so it was almost like they dared me to live up to that. And I think the SOA got a little bit nervous and because they realized I was serious. So they actually supported the project and they actually helped me. There was somebody, a rapper, who helped me develop the lyrics, develop the
That's
music,
amazing.
the videography, and we worked with I came up with some of the lyrics. The SOA came up with some of the lyrics. The rapper his name is Humble the Poet, helped me put it
Yeah,
all together,
that's awesome.
and we premiered it at the annual meeting, and that went. The first time it was seen was in front of an audience of 2,000 people at the
Yeah,
annual meeting.
that is amazing. So did they ask you to rap live after that, or?
Well, I get those kind of requests whenever I show up.
I'm
So
sure. um, so okay, kind of looking forward into the future, next 20, 30 years. I mean, obviously, technologies are always changing. And as actuaries, we're constantly using new technologies because we tend to program with data and we're looking at a
yep.
lot of data. Do you feel like I've heard kind of varying opinions on this with artificial intelligence and things like that. Do you feel like the job of an actuary could ever be replaced, or do you think it just might change in nature in the future?
Well, I personally don't think the job of an actuary will be replaced. Certain aspects of the jobs could get further automated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I mean, just what you're doing, developing toolkits
Yep.
is helps the actuary in their job because it alleviates them of doing stuff that they maybe were less familiar with and
Mm-hmm.
would have taken longer to do, and you make it easy to do, right?
Right.
And I think all of the new technology is kind of pushing us in that direction. But the essential job of the actuary, understanding the risk and understanding the financial consequences of the risk, is not going away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the tools are going to um, let us synthesize more and more and more information to come to the analyses and the conclusions we come to.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do never eliminates uncertainty in the world.
Right.
I mean, is it going to rain tomorrow? I don't know. That uncertainty doesn't get eliminated, but maybe we can make our assessments, make best estimates a little bit crisper, understand the variances a little bit better, put crisper financial consequences on it. But what we do isn't going away.
Yeah.
And I think that's really makes it exciting. And I also try to put it in context. If you add the SOA probably has half the actuaries in the world as their members. Okay, you throw together the SOA with the rest of the world,
Mm-hmm.
you're talking about only 75,000 people worldwide.
Yes.
Okay, there are multiples of that lawyers in New York City than
Yes.
there are actuaries in the world.
That's pretty amazing. So
So
75,000, that's the total number of credentialed actuaries in the world?
yes, and even
That's
ones that
amazing.
whether some got their credentials through university programs, some through examinations, but that's roughly the number.
Wow.
And we it was something that I acknowledged in the acceptance speech I had. But when you think about every country has social. People have life insurance.
Mm-hmm.
People have auto and home insurance. People have retirement plans. Some of them are government schemes. They may be government health care. Some of them have government social security, whatever. Okay. But you need those kind of insurance programs
Mm-hmm.
to manage the economic and financial risk people have, right?
Right.
And there are 7 billion people on the planet.
Yeah.
So somehow those 75,000 actuaries are helping construct the financial well-being of all 7 billion people.
That's pretty amazing.
So that's a really humbling kind of responsibility for us
Y-
to have.
Right. Yeah, you bring up a very good point, and yeah, to kind of to build on that, I was also thinking, no matter how much technology changes, it's like, even in the few different companies that I've worked at, there's so many specifics and little things that technology can't detect or sense that as an actuary you kind of have to make decisions on. And
Right.
so, I mean, I agree with you. I don't think an actuary's role would ever go away, even though it may kind of change over time.
Yeah, it's going to evolve. I mean, it
Yeah,
will evolve, and but it's been evolving for for decades, for maybe even for hundreds of years.
yeah, yeah.
As the tools evolve, we're able to do better and better analyses, and I don't see that
Hmm.
changing.
Definitely. All right, well, we are, Andy, almost at 30 minutes here, so to kind of wrap things up, what is your number one piece of advice to aspiring actuaries that are watching
Oh
this
gosh.
video, getting into the field?
Okay. If you're getting into the field, the number one thing I say is, and God, if you've got your credentials, God bless you. If you're studying, good luck. But never stop learning. Okay. Whatever you do, you will always need to stop. You will always need to continue learning, continuing to acquire knowledge, new skills, new techniques, new fields, whatever, because whatever was the case, like for sure for me at the beginning of my career, 35 years later, it's not the same. And you want to have as rich a career as you can.
Hmm.
You've got to keep teaching yourself the whole time. So I applaud everybody that's completed their credentials, and I encourage everybody that hasn't. But there's no point where you should stop trying to acquire new knowledge. So
Good advice. Yeah, I would agree with you there. And then outside of the actuarial realm, I know you're a busy guy, but what are your favorite hobbies besides rapping? Maybe
well, I
favorite hobbies, favorite podcast, book, anything like that?
I love the Avengers. Okay, and I've
Oh,
loved the
nice.
Avengers. I've loved the Avengers for 50 years. So I collect the comics.
No way.
I watch the movies. I've got about 20,000 comics in my collection.
That is
Uh,
impressive.
but in the more recent years, I actually have a very specialized hobby, which is making action figures, customizing action figures of
Like you
all
make
the.
you make your own?
I actually brought a couple here. I could show you the before and after,
I would love to
so
see that.
you can see what I'm talking about, what's involved here, and usually it involves making a version of a character that hasn't been turned into an action figure before.
Okay.
So uh, this I'm going to show you a before. This was an action figure that was available
Okay.
for purchase. So I have that in my collection. One of the Avengers
Nice.
from the comic books,
Uh huh. So that's
called
like
Giant
that's
Man.
like an original there. Who's which character is that?
That's Giant Man.
Giant Man. All right.
Okay, as he appeared in the comic books.
Uh huh.
But I there was a version of the costume that never was made into an action figure, and I decided I wanted that version. So I created a custom version.
Look at this. Nice.
You can see repainted for sure,
Yep.
but also a lot of details resculpted.
So that's the first one is this exact. You
The
bought
first
two
one is
two
the
of them.
store bought
Yeah.
retail.
And so you took
This one is
off.
the customized one.
Look at that. And you added like some sunglasses and nice
A
paint
lot
job. That's
nice
impressive.
paint job.
Yeah.
Yeah, some details on the belt. Uh,
Wow. That is
changed
amazing.
added ears instead of
Oh, and you changed
the
his
cover.
hand. His fingers are. Oh, I can't tell on the
Well,
other one.
those are well, these are all articulated,
Oh,
and
okay.
so that's why I collect action figures because you can still play with them. You can pose them,
That's
and
amazing.
so and I've got probably in my collection. I probably have several hundred custom figures.
Wow, that is impressive. There you have it, everyone. President of the SOA, Avenger fan, right there. So if you want your next Avenger character, he will make it for you and send it to you. He's got a new business going now.
Uh,
um, hey, Andy, I really appreciate you coming on today. It was very enjoyable talking to you. And
a lot of fun, Paul. Thank you.
I don't know if you noticed, everyone keeps commenting, but my clock is frozen at 10:07, I think. And I just left it that way because it's now become like kind of the hallmark of my background here. So, but anyway, thanks again, Andy, and
Okay, good luck to you, Paul, and
appreciate it.
had a good time, and stay safe and
Thank you. You
healthy,
too.
everyone,
You
please.
too. We'll see you all
Okay,
later. See you all next
okay,
time.
bye bye.
Bye.